Grew up in Mount Vernon, uptown.
Money earning.
The Red Raiders, we were the Red Raiders in the 60s. I was the running back, and we used to shift like the Cowboys.
Landry.
So I said, oh, the Cowboys play like us.
Right.
I've been a Cowboy fan since the 60s. He's making it hard for me.
Wow.
Not to be a fan, because I'm still a Cowboy fan. I'm still going to have the star on the side of the hat. But he ain't thinking about us. He's thinking about his pocket.
Makes no sense, guys. But you know this.
There's box office and there's Oscars. Jerry, been a while, huh? You ain't been to the show, you wouldn't know.
Wow.
Wouldn't been to the show, you wouldn't know.
Uh-oh.
Haven't been to the show, so you wouldn't know what it is to win.
I don't need to add.
I feel like we could
And I love the Cowboys. I love the Cowboys because I really love them. This is the way I feel, the way I feel. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about the movie.
And I wanted to get back to the movie because, you know, you didn't bring the
speaking of the movie,
up in the
same thing.
Highest to lowest. You didn't bring it up.
And what does it say down the bottom of the movie?
What?
Or does it say it on the one sheet?
What does it say?
All money ain't good money, Jerry.
Say it again.
All money ain't good money, Jerry.
One time.
August 15th, we open Friday.
Ooh, Lord.
All money ain't good money.
Things came to a head at training camp. On a blistering Texas afternoon, witnesses saw Jerry on the sideline during a scrimmage, gesturing toward the field while speaking to Parsons. The star pass rusher shook his head, visibly tense. Teammates shifted uncomfortably. A few stepped in, as if to keep things from escalating. Those close to the team say the conversation was blunt. Parsons told Jerry, "I'm not risking my career for a team that won't respect me." Jerry shot back, "Son, you don't know how this business works." From there, voices rose. Whatever happened next, it was enough to fuel social media sleuths for weeks as fans dissected every grainy clip that surfaced.
This man's future. You're playing with this man's livelihood in terms of Micah Parsons. Yes, he's under contract, but the reality is that you know what this man deserves. You had an idea about it, and you're playing these games. And why am I so disgusted with Jerry Jones about this? Because of the things that I've heard. Molly, Mike T, Swagoo, you've heard this. Do y'all know he hasn't spoken to Micah Parsons' agent? You're talking about, you're treating like the discussions that you had months ago with Micah Parsons was a negotiation. It wasn't a negotiation. Now, you know this as a former executive in the National Football League. You don't sit up there and have a discussion with a player and think that's a contract negotiation. Was anything memorialized? Was anything firmly and definitively agreed upon by the parties that be? Normally, you're sending the player away because you want to talk to their representation. You're not thinking that a conversation with a player who, by the way, is 25, 26 years of age, that this man is astute and he's an expert at negotiations. That's not Micah Parsons.
Publicly, Jerry downplayed the situation. "I think the world of Micah," he told reporters, "and that trade request is just part of negotiation. Don't lose any sleep over it." It was classic Jones, measured, dismissive, and calculated to keep the story alive without revealing anything substantive. But in the locker room, the tone was different. Some players whispered that if the team could treat Parsons this way, what hope did they have when their own contracts came up? The tension wasn't just between Jerry and Micah anymore. It was between the front office and the roster.
I think that's it. I think what Dan says is important because Jerry Jones has taken this personally. He's treated their conversation in the spring as if it was a conversation amongst friends, right? There is no friendship in ownership and labor. That's not the way it worked. The imbalance of power doesn't allow that. So when Jerry Jones says, okay, we're going to pay you this much per year, it's going to be this many years. And when Micah Parsons says, yes, that sounds good, Jerry, now call David Mulligetta and let's get the fine print worked out. You would expect that David Mulligetta has gotten black and white or gotten an email or gotten a paper that says, here's the outline of what we want to do within a contract. That's never happened. That next step that says, okay, I have a representation, the same way Jerry would have representation if he was going into litigation. I have representation that you're supposed to work this out with. And what's happened publicly is Jerry Jones, as we all do when we get older, we lose the social filter that tells us this is something we shouldn't talk about publicly.
Yeah.
And so now you've alienated your best player who, even though loves the spotlight, loves attention, went in early and wanted to renegotiate last year and was willing to have the conversation this year. And if all of those things happen and go the right way that business should be handled, Micah Parsons never has to ask for a trade. And I think him being in camp with what Dan said, his fines being forgivable. This is not Terry McLaurin. This is not Trey Hendrickson, who had to go back to camp because at some point during negotiations, they were going to have to say, the $500,000 I've accrued in fines, can you somehow help me with that within my contract? Micah doesn't have none of those things. Micah has approached this as more of an adult than Jerry Jones, and I believe that's a big problem.
Just weeks earlier, Parsons had gone public with his frustration, accusing the organization of shutting his agent out of negotiations and taking shots at him for injuries sustained while giving everything to the team. "I no longer want to be held to closed-door negotiations without my agent present," Parsons wrote in a statement that spread across social media within minutes. "I no longer want shots taken at me for getting injured while laying it on the line for the organization, our fans, and my teammates." For a player who had been Rookie of the Year, a multiple-time All-Pro, and the unquestioned leader of the defense, it was as direct and cutting as any public statement a Cowboy had made in years. Fans had spent the offseason expecting one of the most obvious moves in franchise history, a massive extension that would make Parsons one of the highest-paid defenders in the league. But instead, there was nothing. No talks, no meetings, no movement. Behind closed doors, Jerry and his son Stephen Jones weren't even taking calls from Parsons' agent. To the Jones family, it was just negotiating. To Parsons, it was a public slight that undermined his value and insulted his role on the team. The silence became its own message. The Cowboys weren't going to be rushed, no matter how important the player.
Myself for the betterment of the team. You don't handle me like you've done for decades and decades with your players. This is definitely a tactic. You can come to terms isolated and one-on-one, but specifications require an agent to be present or a professional in that field. Let Dave Mulligetta do his doggone job because he's really good at what he does. Boxing him out, You're going through the agent sooner or later, Jerry. So why are you not going through the agent for your star players? Some ain't adding up. You ask yourself and say, hey, why is Jerry doing this? Well, Jerry's been doing this since inception, and it's worked for him. But sooner or later, it may not work for everybody.
You feel like Micah will sign with Dallas?
Will Dallas seek a trade? Because he's still under contract with the Dallas Cowboys. So if you're asking who has the leverage, Jerry Jones has the leverage still. And it all comes down to salary cap. Because you got Dak Prescott that's making $60 a year. You got CeeDee Lamb that's also top paid.
But he in a pickle, boy.
It's going to get real interesting in good old Dallas. They still doing training camp over there in California?
I don't know, but somebody might not make the trip back to Dallas if they don't get that paperwork right.
Like, it's really going to get interesting. And we going to keep our nose glued to the tube.
For sure.
In Dallas, drama isn't an accident. It's part of the DNA. The Cowboys don't just play football, they perform. Every pass, every tackle, every sideline glare feels scripted for maximum effect. And at the center of it all is Jerry Jones, a man who has turned America's team into the NFL's most valuable and most talked about franchise. But in 2025, the theatrics took a sharp, combustible turn. The team's most electrifying player, defensive superstar Micah Parsons, dropped a bombshell trade request that shook Cowboys Nation to its core. And Jerry? He didn't just let it happen. He poured gasoline on the fire.
Let's get in here and sign it. Micah said this. Now, I don't think the agent would have done that. But Micah, even if he did agree, obviously does not know the fine print, or is not one that should read the fine print and know all the ins and outs of a contract. We have agents, and we got agents that deal with that stuff. So, of course, Micah wants his agent to do it. So don't tell me you're urgent to get this done when you won't even call his agent. And I don't know what the deal is with him and David Mulligetta. Mulligata's one of the best agents in the league. So I don't know.
Forbes just called him the most powerful guy in the NFL.
I don't understand what in the world is going on. No, he's up
I'm just
there.
telling you,
He's
the
a top
agent
agent.
in the NFL.
He's a,
Sorry.
Okay.
Forbes called him the
he
most
is a
powerful
great
agent.
agent.
Okay.
I like
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
probably
just,
not more
it's
powerful
just,
than Goodell.
yeah,
But yeah.
It's
go ahead.
disingenuous. I think.
Well,
now
so-
look, quickly.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
do think it's getting done.
Probably.
But I'm probably. But Jerry does seem dug in. And the fact of the matter is this: as much as I hope Micah gets his deal,
Micah doesn't have a lot of
because of the
leverage.
rule, the rules are what they are. He can't sit out. We can talk about that. He can't sit out the whole season.
Parsons, for his part, kept his head down in public. He trained, he conditioned, he practiced. But the fire in his game day swagger seemed replaced by something colder, more focused. Around the league, other general managers began calling quietly, probing for cracks. What would it take? Would Jerry really move him? Officially, the Cowboys weren't entertaining trade offers. Unofficially, every player has a price. And with the NFL salary cap tightening and other contracts looming, the question became whether Jerry was playing a game of leverage or playing with fire.
It makes no sense whatsoever, especially when you have T.J. Watt, who set the market for being the highest paid non-quarterback. In black and white, you know what the numbers are. He's making $41 million. Myles Garrett, before T.J. Watt, he was making $40 million at the defensive end position. So you know what the numbers should be, and it's in black and white. So I don't understand why the deal is not done right now currently, but also I don't understand Jerry Jones and his logic behind not talking to the agent of Micah Parsons. I think it's utterly disrespectful to say that, hey, I was in the room talking to Micah Parsons about leadership, and then all of a sudden we got on contract talks, and then I felt like we struck a deal, because that says to me, no, you felt like you got over on Micah Parsons because his representation was not in that room. So I don't know what GM, what owner in their right mind thinks that a player is going to sit there and have a casual conversation with you, and the next thing you know, you're talking about a contract, and then y'all strike a deal. It's okay to have the respect for David Mulligata and call the agent of Micah Parsons and figure this thing out. But that's not the case with Jerry Jones. So Jerry Jones is acting like the child in this situation, and Michael Parsons is being the adult.
It began innocently enough, or so it seemed. On August 11th, 2025, Jerry walked the red carpet at the premiere of America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, a new Netflix documentary chronicling his decades-long reign. Flanked by family, photographers, and Hollywood lights, he gave reporters his signature blend of charm and showmanship. And then, with cameras rolling, he leaned into his favorite narrative. The Cowboys are a soap opera, 365 days a year, he said, grinning. And when it gets slow, I'll stir it up. The crowd laughed. The quote made headlines. But in the Cowboys' locker room, where tensions were already running high, it didn't land as comedy. It felt like a deliberate provocation. This wasn't Jerry's first public clash with a star. Cowboys' history is littered with high-profile fallouts, from Emmitt Smith's holdout to Jimmy Johnson's departure to Dez Bryant's messy exit. Sometimes Jerry came out looking like the master strategist. Other times, he looked like a man too proud to bend, even at the expense of winning. What made this feud feel different was its timing. Parsons was in his prime, healthy, and the centerpiece of a defense that many believed could carry Dallas to a Super Bowl. Letting him slip away now wouldn't just be a personnel mistake, it could be a generational regret.
This should not be a negotiation. I think this is tantamount to a max salary in basketball. It's time. This is what he get. Pay him. This is not someone you should negotiate with. He was a first-round pick who performed like on a Hall of Fame track. What are we doing? You pay him $1 more than the person who got paid at that position prior to him. There are some car dealerships you can go into and haggle. There are some that the price is the price because it's so rare and valuable.
He is probably the greatest non-Terp defensive player in the history of the Dallas Cowboys.
He's that guy. There's no way around it. I could understand why it might take you a while to come to a consensus with CeeDee Lamb. I could understand how it is that you don't want to have to make yourself pay Dak Prescott all that money. You should be excited about giving that money to Micah Parsons.
And yet, Maybe that's the point. Jerry has always believed that attention is its own currency. In his world, controversy isn't a problem to avoid. It's a tool to wield. There's sizzle, there's emotion, and there's controversy, he said on that red carpet. That controversy is good stuff in terms of keeping people's attention. But attention doesn't block passes or sack quarterbacks. It doesn't keep the locker room united. And when the cameras turn off and the stadium lights dim, it doesn't win games. Now, with the season looming, the Cowboys stand at a crossroads. Micah Parsons remains on the roster, but his future feels more fragile than ever. Jerry Jones continues to smile for the cameras, confident in his ability to control the story.